Hey, you're listening to Cracking the Code, the podcast for leaders building and growing service-based businesses. If you are in legal or medical or financial services, if you have letters behind your name that qualify you to do what you do for a living, you are in the right place. I am your host, Rob Riggs, here to bring you intel and access that are designed to decode how technology can be and should be impacting your growth. All right, let's get into it. All right, everybody, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Let me introduce today's guest. Ivan Janku is the founder of Digital Rocket Ads and the creator of the Rocketship System. This is a process-driven approach to paid advertising that's managed over $80 million in ad spend and generated over $250 million in client sales. He's been featured in Forbes and guested on Perpetual Traffic, and just I'm really excited to speak with Ivan this morning. And then something, before I jump in and let you introduce yourself. I know that you're obsessed with plain English reporting, right? Tracking at a very granular level, but communicating that in a way that's very easy for clients to understand. Ivan, thanks so much for being here. Why don't you take a second and tell us about yourself?
Thank you so much, Rob, for this lovely introduction. So I've been doing Facebook ads since I started like my online career 12 years ago, but the agency started 10 years ago. So the moment I started working, I just saw that the market wasn't really giving the business owner what they need. So 10 years ago, we just ran Facebook ads. We didn't have any creative team, nothing. So as the time went, I just noticed that more and more businesses just weren't capable of building a whole system or a whole team that can nurture a system. So that's how one by one the Rocketship system fell into place, where we first solved some of the basic issues with creative. Then we realized that the websites are a bottleneck to most of the potential customers. So that's why we started adding web dev. But then we had a lot of customers that had the email agencies that were just leeching on most of our work. So we added email to our roster to consolidate the MER. Well, yeah, at the end of the day, you get me. The reporting is what is really important, but often enough, every vendor goes for what their own angle is and what they want as interest. So building a system that's a one-stop shop for business owners is something that I think most of the market needs, because the average business owner doesn't have enough time to manage 5 agencies, who knows how many freelancers, and on top of it, actually build a business, run it, and develop the products that are going to keep the future of the business intact.
Right, that's huge. So let's start there. So a lot of agencies we've seen, produce reports that are vanity metrics, how many likes you got, how many impressions, that sort of thing, which is nice for when somebody's trying to build a brand, and out there, increase visibility. But when the immediate lead gen, the immediate revenue is not there, people get a little antsy, right? What are the metrics that you track and report on a regular basis?
So it really depends on the type of business. And for example, for lead gen businesses, they often have an issue with the quality of leads. So we try to develop some kind of qualifier so we can have normal leads and qualified leads. Now, of course, we use a lot of that data then to tell Meta and Google and everybody to profile towards that higher quality type of lead. But at the end of the day, that's just one example. We often have situations where I'll give you an example where we worked with an older business owner, which is the name of the company is called Greek Flavors. And they reached out to us for Facebook ads, but then we right away saw that their websites is half of the websites working, the rest of it is not working, and on top of it, their email game is a big problem, because when you're selling food, for example, email is going to be the place where you generate a lot of the revenue. So in their case, we needed to go in and figure those numbers out, and when we fixed the website and email, their business doubled. Why? Because people couldn't use their website over the phone. So it really depends on the type of business. The main goal for me is to kind of try not looking at ROI per individual channels, mainly because each channel is going to fight for attribution. So Google's going to steal Meta's conversions and Meta vice versa. So in our situation, having an MER understanding of everything that happens and tracking the first click through URLs, UTM tags, sorry. So tracking the first click through UTMs is going to be a thing that we also leverage quite a bit.
Yeah, okay. So when you're looking for attribution, there's different schools of thought. Is it the first click where the journey begins? Is it the last click that actually incented the motivation to buy? Like, where do you track that journey? Where do you spend your most the focus on most in your reporting?
So there's a lot of different tools we can use. I love to combine Google Analytics with a couple other tracking tools. Google Analytics is more of a backdrop. We have partnerships with different tracking softwares like Triple Whale and um, yeah, the names today are a bit of an issue for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
but yeah,
But like,
basically we
what converts like something like that so it's tracking like
exactly.
form fills and in clicks and phone calls, that sort of thing, to track attribution, essentially, how you know a campaign is successful.
Exactly,
Oh,
because if
yeah.
we don't have a way for us to actually get stuff to attribute which click came first, we really don't know what's actually driving the growth. In my opinion, it's always going to be more important for us to understand the first click in the origin because that's the moment the journey starts. Of course, the last click is also important, but often enough, if you don't understand which is originating your new buyers, you're not going to be able to understand what is going to grow your business. And at the end of the day, everybody wants growth.
Yeah, right. Um, the one of the things we see a lot of times is that a marketing firm is looking for that when they're tracking the last click, before the purchase, and attributing that sale to that last click. They're looking at what did it take to get this person to convert? But at any given point in time, we see 3% of the market is ready to buy, like right now. But that when you're only communicating to that person, you leave 97% of the people who are earlier in that buyer stage of 5 stages of awareness.
Exactly.
And they need to be spoken to differently, right? In order to warm them up, to nurture them to the point where they are ready to buy. They're comparing you against competitors. What do you see? How do you think through how you communicate to that 97% differently than you communicate to the 3% who are comparing? Where am I going to buy? I know I'm going to buy this thing. Where am I going to buy it?
So most of the time, the early adopters buy fast, but those are really rare. And I would say that that group
Yeah,
is going to be diminished more and more, mainly because the buying patterns of people are following, unfortunately, the economical trends. So the moment we have issues with people paying their rents and stuff like that, right away, splurge spending goes down. And we did notice in 2020, for example, a huge amount of people just spending and living lavishly, while
yeah,
now that's being countered. And now we see more and more people thinking a lot more, and you can see that through the amount of touch points you need and how much more effort you need to make sure somebody's actually gonna trust you and buy from you. But at the same time, we've noticed that more, it's basically like you're like with email. Before you can write an email to everybody, and now you have like different parameters, different types of things you need to add so you don't get sent to the spam. It's the same
right.
for e-commerce, it's the same for lead gen. You have to have a website that's and good enough, and only after that you can think about running ads and stuff like that. So if your website doesn't say what are your guarantees, what is the quality, what is going to be the thing that the person can understand, so some basic information, and a lot of websites miss a lot of the basic
Yeah.
information they talk about. And you can imagine how often the business owner is just like, you do it through the phone, and I'm like, yeah, that's going to break off of the sales.
Right.
So yeah, I
For
think that just the general preparation and the minimum requirements per success is going to continue going higher and higher. And the big key difference in 2025 and 2026 is going to be that the end user is going to require you to provide a lot more information, a lot more clarity, a lot of better offers, because they have less money and a lot more businesses are going to be fighting for that small amount of money.
Right. Yeah, for sure. We look at the website as being it's the last step in the journey. People are often buying through the website, that point of conversion, but it's oftentimes the first place we want to start because if there's something, if we're working with somebody in marketing, we're not starting with ads. We're starting with that point of conversion because if I throw a
Exactly.
hundred leads your way and 2% of them convert, I can triple or quadruple somebody's conversion rate just by fixing some of those issues on the website with the same ad spends, right? Where are
Exactly.
you? So you talked about kind of where where you focus, and then kind of you don't want to throw kind of bad money after good. Where are you seeing kind of so like yeah, I'm sorry to ramble here but 25 years ago, the turn of the century, the marketing adage was it takes 7 impressions to generate a sale, right? But what we've seen over the past 25 years, because people are getting bombarded with ads, left and right. It takes a lot more touches from a lot more sources, right? We're seeing 37 touches that it takes to generate a sale now across a handful of platforms. What are the big things that you're seeing for some of your clients in terms of those touch points, and how do they get in front of people without just bombarding and being everywhere?
So the main thing I've noticed is that in general, depending on the CMO or business owner's age and tech savviness, the difference in problems is going to appear. So the average business CMO or owner is about 50 to 60 right now. So
Okay.
that person is not that used to using their mobile phone. And through that,
Mm,
all of the origins of the problem start because they hire a web dev agency that doesn't have a clue how the website performance is going to look like and how to optimize it because they just build websites.
yeah.
So you can imagine the CEO checks it out through his laptop, gives the all clear, and then later when the marketing agency comes in, the website doesn't work well on the phone. There's a lot of different glitches. There's no safety nets. The optimization doesn't exist. So that's the first thing I've noticed that most business owners first do a bad job at their website. They don't say the most crucial information, and often enough, they kind of just think it's going to be normal, and they don't say some of the like things that they should be normal. But the thing is, everything you don't say, people are going to think about like as they don't exist. And the main thing is how you say it. I see that most websites are just killing people with the amount of texts and random stuff that are not
Sure.
important. So figuring out the way how to visually present all of your benefits so the person is going to remember them because we're a visual being, so we're going to remember a picture or an icon way better than a block of text is going to be
Uh,
the way to go. The second thing is going to be the mobile optimization. If your mobile optimization doesn't work, you cannot run ads. And I'm quite sure even for SEO to this day, like a lot of that traffic is going to be mobile.
yeah.
So if you're not mobile optimized, it's kind of worse than being like with a bad desktop site.
Right. Are you seeing what yeah, a few years ago we crossed the threshold of if more than 50% of traffic is coming from mobile. Are you seeing I'm assuming that has steadily increased
Yeah,
60%, yeah, so yeah, what are
75,
you
I would
seeing
say
now?
mostly. It really
75,
depends
really?
on, yeah, the last like 10 audits were something like that. The main
Okay.
thing I noticed is that depending on what you're doing for traffic, if you're running media buying, for like for example Facebook ads, at least 80% of that traffic is going to be mobile. I would say TikTok is going to be even higher, and then
Yeah.
Google and Bing kind of give you a bit more desktop traffic. But it
Okay.
does skew depending on the niche as well. Like we have companies that focus on specifically on pensioners, and then with them the percentage of desktop steadily increases. So that's
Mm.
another thing, tracking the buying pattern. But when we're talking about that, I wanted to give you another example. For those people, companies targeting people over like 50, I say that there's more people over 50 wearing glasses than not. So what we do in
Sure.
a lot of our businesses that we take on, we just scale up the fonts and test that. And we had two different examples. We're just doubling the font size, ended up doubling the conversion rate of the website.
Hmm.
Sounds
Interesting.
dumb, but like if you're a pensioner that doesn't know where her glasses are, so making
Right.
the website work even without glasses makes sense.
That's fair because you don't want somebody to like put their purchase on hold. Wait a second, where did I put my glasses? And meanwhile they're on the top of their head or
Exactly.
something. But and
And and
it's a sale.
mostly
It doesn't happen. Yeah.
and mostly they won't even get to the point of purchase because if they don't see the image or they cannot read the website, they will just get put off and most of them get pissed off. And usually when you have that mistake in your website, you repeat that mistake on your ads as well.
Yeah, that's right. For sure. And how much of that, so you alluded to this, but just to be clear, it's important to think about kind of where somebody is seeing those ads, where somebody is coming from when they're browsing, what that web environment would be. So the web experience is if I am selling B2B services, maybe I am more prone as a potential consumer to buy sitting in my office working from a laptop or bigger screen, right? But if I'm finding somebody on, Meta, Facebook, Insta, TikTok or something. I'm obviously on my phone, in the line to pick up my kids from school or, on the go, right? How do you think through that with your client, where their purchases are happening?
So the main thing I wanted to stress with like people on the go, and if you're trying to convert people, like sometimes somebody is going back from work on a bus and with a shitty phone with an even worse internet connection. So thinking
Sure.
about your website loading speed is going to be an important factor because every single one of the channels that sell you traffic is also going to measure your loading speed, and that's what they call post-purchase experience, or sorry, post-click experience. So if, for example, you have a badly loading website, Google is going to sell that traffic to somebody with a better performing website because the experience that the user is going to have is usually going to be better. And Google's interest there is to make sure that as many of the clicks on the ads are going to be valuable, because if every single click was garbage, people would stop clicking, and that is something that will jeopardize the value of Google itself. So that's why they
Mhm.
take care of stuff like that and measure bounce rates and things. So yeah, that's one example. Another thing that I'm looking often at is just making sure that the whole website and ads and everything can be digested and absorbed without any sound, because people sometimes
Mhm.
don't have headphones, and 95% of the ads is going to be watched without sound. So making
Yeah.
everything with captions and making sure that everything is easy to follow, you can read it, and it's not going to be a stress while you're on a bus, for example, is going to be super important.
For sure. Nice. Hey, this is Rob Riggs, and I wanted to take just a second to tell you about Code Conspirators, our sponsor here. In that we are a technology focused performance marketing agency serving professional service firms. So that's legal, medical, financial, engineering. If you take a test to do what you do for a living, we help you grow your practice with websites and apps and software and performance marketing. That's organic, paid ads, retargeting, conversion optimization. And we're also doing a whole host of things with CRM, AI, and automation that's been bringing our clients tremendous value. If you're curious at all, go to codeconspirators.com to learn more. Now back to the show. There are all kinds. So what you're pointing to is that the ads are important, but also the site is important. And oftentimes, when you're talking to a financial advisor that's looking for increased growth from new clients,
Yeah.
or an attorney, personal injury attorney, an estate planning attorney, somebody like that. Where do you start looking for CRO opportunities, improving, optimizing the revenue that a website is generating? What do you check first, and where do you go from there?
I would say the first thing I do is I get the CMO to approve introducing recordings of sales calls, because my first step is I refuse to work with businesses that don't record sales calls, because otherwise
Sure.
every single sales call is going to be low quality and the sales guy is not at fault. So I
Yeah.
often am the guy that actually ends up firing a lot of salespeople, unfortunately, and or they quit the moment we install call recordings. And you would be surprised.
Sure.
Like they work for 5, 10 years. The moment we install call recording, they're like, no, no, this is an invasion of my privacy. You're on the clock. What privacy?
Right. Right. Right.
So you can imagine how those sales calls looked. So that's the first step. The second step that I look at is talking to the sales team and understanding where the issue is. Often enough, the problem with just running ads for lead gen is that the quality is not going to be there. Most of the
Mm-hmm.
businesses are going to go for complete registrations or leads, and that's basically somebody coming in and filling out the form. So every time somebody fills out the form, doesn't matter if it's good or bad, the Meta's algorithm goes woohoo like Homer Simpson, and
Uh-huh.
it's not good. Like you didn't get what you needed. So
Right.
making either the user jump through multiple hoops, so you make sure that through that they're interested more, or another option would be depending on what they say in their forms, you can categorize them as good, medium, and bad leads. And I'll give you an
Yeah.
example with franchises. We sold in January 5 franchises for ResiCert, and basically our system is depending on the answer they give us on the question of how much money are you have to invest. If they say the right amount of money, they're a good lead and they get automatically moved to book a call. People that are a bit under get to a yellow position, so they might get called up by a salesperson down the line. And everybody that says zero or not enough money gets automatically disqualified. And that's what we do to first help the sales team optimize who they're gonna go after. Speed to lead is going to be super important. Second of
Yeah.
all, we load down the amount of burden on the CRM that just takes on a lot of garbage. Often if you use HubSpot or something like that, that's expensive. And
Yeah.
then on top of it, this gives us the opportunity to teach the algorithm to go for green leads. So when we set up the conversion event and tell the campaign we want green leads or good leads or whatever, that the woohoo moment that we mentioned with Homer Simpson only now happens if somebody's qualified. So this is
Hmm.
going to result in a steep and sharp increase in cost per lead. But
Yeah.
the quality is going to be about 80% hitting the people that are your target audience. You're not going to waste 80% of ad spend like you did so far.
Hmm. Yep. We do this with 5 questions. We call it the 5 question qualification framework,
Beautiful.
and keeps your salespeople from wasting time on somebody who's never going to buy, right? And then they're happier. They can whatever they do, they spend more time closing deals, and things get automatically kind of suppressed and automatically nurtured when somebody
Mhm.
doesn't qualify. But right. Yeah, fantastic. There are are there other we record everything. Every call is automatically recorded. And every call sales call is scored against 5 kind of areas. Do you have a process you're looking to score salespeople across? What are you looking at?
So it really depends on the amount of jurisdiction I have. Often enough, depending on the size of the company. If the company is small, then I'm allowed to do usually whatever I want because the business owner has too much to do. So whatever I contribute is usually perceived as good. While
Yeah.
bigger companies that we work with, we have like a massive law company in the United States that helps people get visas. That's an example where we just managed to scale the whole business and I lost my train of thought for a second. Sorry.
No worries. But so you're talking about kind of professional service, somebody who sells their knowledge for a living, right? And then how you usher somebody in, how you educate, how you nurture them when they're not ready to buy right now. It's a longer sales cycle, let's say.
Yeah.
And how do you orchestrate that when you're working with a smaller company that where you do have like full access to everything you need to do?
So the main thing I like doing is just doing a holistic audit of the whole business. First, understanding exactly what's going on, and then I'd like to provide that in a document, like 40 to 60 pages. So we audit the website, the Facebook ads, Google ads, email, tracking, the P&L, everything we can get our hands on. And then I show that, and I like to categorize that by priority. Like if you're bleeding somewhere, you need to know that. At the same time, some things are urgently needed to be added, like specific data tracking systems or. And then there are some things that are just like small button issues or things that you should adjust, but still kind of skew the perception of the website and the brand and the whole business itself. So
Yeah.
my perception to that is that just giving the whole battle plan in front of the business owner is something that helps quite a bit because they're used to talking to agencies that have the trust me bro method, and it's basically like we're so amazing. Here's our deck. Here's who we worked with, and you're kind of just stuck taking the plunge without actually having anything of substance. And that's one of the
Right.
main things that people tell us. Like they switch 4 to 5 agencies, nobody gives them the time of day. They are only like prompt with invoices, and then often enough they don't even know what's happening with their ad spend. So giving them the
Yes.
right battle plan right away so they understand, plus giving them understanding like what is going to be the most important thing to do first usually helps. And the business owner just needs to understand the general plan. They don't need to be super involved in most cases.
Right. And if I can show, we spent this in ads, you spent this on our services, you received this in conversions. Is that all they're caring about at this point? What we're recommending for the next quarter, that sort of thing. Or are you giving more detailed reports than that so that somebody who cares can dig in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For us, the business owner is usually a person that tried to scale multiple times and they know that their business has a lot of potential. But the problem with that is that every time they start scaling, their profit leaks and data gaps start becoming bigger. It's basically like you're trying to stretch a balloon. And so if it has a
Yeah.
small gap, that small gap is going to make the balloon explode. So that's what most businesses go through. So if your Facebook ads are super profitable, for example, but the website's not optimized and the email's not there, you're only going to be pulling in maybe like half of the money you could be. So as you start scaling,
Mhm.
your just profitability is going to start going down and down. So making sure that you're not leaking anywhere, that everything's working well, is going to be the first thing you do before you start scaling up, as well as collecting data nonstop. We like to do stuff like post-purchase feedback surveys besides the regular research we do. And through that survey, we often get feedback from customers like, we like you better than XYZ product because XYZ. And to us, that's gold because then we know how to hit the competitor. We know that a specific portion of that competitor's audience is unhappy with a specific aspect, so we can then take leverage on that. And usually, the business owner doesn't know stuff like this, and you need to have a
Right.
passive data collection system. Otherwise, you're going to be blind to most opportunities.
Yeah. What percentage of your clients would you say are giving you open access to their P&L?
I would say most. It's usually
Really?
like if they're
Okay.
unhappy with their P&L, they're ready to share it to make it better.
Right, sure.
But
Okay,
for us, it's
that's
important
good.
because I need to understand stuff like what product is your best product, what is your highest margin. I work with brands that
Right.
have worked with huge agencies. Like I won't tell names right now, even though I'm
Sure.
quite inclined to do so. So you can imagine they work with a big brand, big name, and then the big agency either gave that account to an intern or something, and they started
Right.
advertising a product that's like $8 margin in the United States on Facebook ads. Like
Right.
that's never going
Right.
to work. You don't have money for that. So
Yeah.
things like that often get skipped, and often agencies tend to like remove jurisdiction from themselves. But that ends up being the core reason why the business didn't grow and why the scaling effort failed. And in my
Hmm.
opinion, if you're a real professional, you always go a bit outside of just your zone because you need to understand how this works in a full system. Like even if you're a guy that just does like a part of the car, you still want to understand how the rest of the car around it could impact your part.
Yeah,
Just as an
sure.
example.
That's fair. I'd love to hear that. And especially when a company is smaller, they probably have less, fewer concerns about sharing that. But yeah, you start getting into mid and enterprise, the people we're talking to don't even have access to, the P&L. So
Yeah.
it's a challenge, but cool. So I know we're coming up on time. It's amazing how quickly these conversations, take place. But is there anything that you think? So our audience is generally professional service businesses. They're selling their knowledge. They have letters behind their name that qualify them to do what they do for a living. Is there anything that we haven't had a chance to talk through that you'd recommend when they're trying to grow their business and not sure where to start?
I have three good ideas. Hopefully, I'll
Okay.
remember all three by the end. But the main thing is that usually businesses don't take their video testimonials from customers. What I like to
Mm,
do is
yeah.
when we talk to a customer and they usually give us a good feedback, like this is amazing, you did a good job, this and that. I like to ask at the end of that call, like, could we use this as a testimonial? Because
Right.
often enough businesses, when you ask a person to just record themselves, they won't do it because it feels off and most people are not used to recording themselves. So
Hmm.
the main thing is collecting all of that is going to be super important because you need to have that on your website. You need to have that in your emails and ads. Otherwise, people are not going to trust you. And I see that most
Right.
businesses just think that they can write text that anyone can fake. And that's
Yeah.
going to work, which is never the case. So
Right.
collecting the testimonials and having a verified procedure that's going to give you a high yield on those conversations for testimonials is going to be the way to go because you prove yourself that other people trusted you and they had a good outcome.
Hmm. Yeah. No, good stuff. Um,
Yeah.
you want to talk more about that? So there's video testimonials is one. You got any more to share?
So besides how to get them, the last thing I would say is emails. I see that most businesses underestimate the power of emails. Now, of course, if you're doing emails, you should be running text messages side by side to that because the operate on those is going to
Hmm.
be 90%. And usually you can use text messages to capture back the people that kind of forgot that if your email went somewhere sideways. But I
Yeah.
see even big agencies running just text-based email, which is annoying and dumb. And I suggest that everybody should sign up to Klaviyo and have really good designs. You can make templates that are going to stand out, and then you make sure that your numbers for emails are going to work because the email is going to be something like a hybrid car. So you're taking your gas guzzling diesel and adding email to it, and you now have a hybrid car. You're going to achieve a
Mhm.
lot more with the same ad spend and same effort if you set up your emails properly.
Absolutely. For sure. Ivan, where can people reach out to you, learn more, etc.?
If you want to reach out to us, you can go to digitalrocketads.com and you have multiple options. Besides booking a call, you can also find a sign up form to do what we call a no waste audit. So we will go through your website, Facebook ads, Google ads, email, and a lot more to find any blind spots or profit leaks you might have and figure out a way how to scale your business in 2026.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for jumping on here and sharing your knowledge. I appreciate you, and we'll make sure people have a link to your site, etc. Other tools in the show notes here. Yeah, I just appreciate you being on.
Thank you very much, Rob. I'm super glad that you gave me this opportunity to talk to you and your audience.
Absolutely cool. All right, thanks so much to Ivan for sharing his knowledge. If you're interested in more information from Ivan and/or his team, check out digitalrocketads.com. And if today's conversation hit home, here's your homework. Go look at your website through the lens of traffic temperature. Are you speaking to somebody who just discovered you the same way you're speaking to people who have been following you for months? Chances are you're leaving opportunities on the table here. And that mismatch is costing you conversions. Next, if you're at all concerned about conversion from your website, optimizing for better conversion with the same ad spend, we have a 5-question lead qualification framework that is specific to your industry. Again, if you're at a professional service firm in medical, legal, finance, engineering, somebody who has to take a test to do what you do, then we have a framework that shows you how to get more conversions from the same ad spend. The link will be in the show notes, and highly recommend you check that out when you're looking to grow without growing your cost of ads. Anyway, until next time, I am Rob Riggs with Code Conspirators, and I appreciate you being here.